All right, here's another example. Now in this example here, we have a negative for the leading coefficient. So this coefficient here, whenever you write a polynomial, you always want to write it in standard form where the exponents on the variable are in decreasing order, okay? And the leading coefficient is the one that's on the variable with the highest coefficient, positive coefficient, okay? Now, in this case here, we've got a negative leading coefficient. Now, what we normally do is we don't typically like to have negative numbers here. So one of the things we can do is we'll factor out a negative, okay? So in this case here, when you look at the common factor, the greatest common factor, again, we will look at what's the number, the biggest number that will divide all three numbers. In this case, it's 4, right? 4 will divide all of them. And then what's the highest variable? Well, there is none, okay? Because we don't have a variable here, so the largest exponent of the variable we can factor out is x to the 0, which is 1. So we can't do anything with the variables, but we can factor out a 4. But in this case, I would factor out a negative 4. Now, whenever you factor out a negative number, a negative greatest common factor from a polynomial, always switch the signs. The signs get switched, okay? So if I do this, it's going to be negative 4, so I'm going to factor out a negative 4. And what's left over? Well, I get x squared plus 2x minus 3, okay? And again, if you use the distributive property to verify your answer, always double check. If I take negative 4 times 1, right, because remember there's an assumed 1 here, right? So negative 4 times 1 equals negative 4. Negative 4 times 2 equals a negative 8, so minus 8. And then negative 4 times a negative 3 gives me a positive 12, which is exactly what we started with, okay? So always make sure if you have a negative leading coefficient, we want to factor out the negative. Whenever we factor out the negative, we always change the signs of what the leftover factor is, okay? And that's it.